Well guys, free agency hasn't disappointed thus far. As we've already seen tons of chaos from unexpected signings to trades, the off-season has still yielded tons of excitement. In this video, we're going to go through and look at the winners and losers of free agency. Keep in mind that we're not going over every single team, but only those that have made substantial moves. I recently made an upgrade in editing software, so if you like what you see, be sure to give a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And with that, here is the NHL's 2024 free agency's winners and losers. Ever since former captain Patrice Bergeron hung up the skates, the 1C position has been up for grabs. And now, GM Don Sweeney has found who he believes will be a worthy replacement. He went out and signed Elias Lindholm. Lindholm, who was given a 7-year deal, will be making $7.75 million a season while in Boston. While this does seem like a bargain on the surface, it's important to note that there's some risk involved for the B. Lindholm's best season was the one in which the forward went a point per game while having Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk as his line mates. Unfortunately though, after that breakout season, he hasn't been able to match that same magic that he seemingly had throughout the 2021-22 campaign. However, Lindholm has at least demonstrated that he's capable of producing at a level that Boston will be expecting him to. And while this contract wasn't the best, this one is a lot closer to the worst. Nikita Zadorov was signed for 6 years and will be making $5 million a season throughout. Now this is nothing against Zadorov as a player, because while he's not the most offensive guy out there, he's very physical. He typically drops the gloves when needed, hits everything that moves, and given that he's 6'6" and well over 200 pounds, he's a force to be reckoned with. But considering that he's going to be on the bottom pairing and playing a limited role, makes this a sheer overpayment. Sweeney also made some smaller depth signings, but considering how questionable the two we went over are, I'm giving Boston the thumbs down. Prior to free agency officially kicking off, the Sabres made a pretty big move as they decided to buy out Jeff Skinner's contract. Now this was one of the worst contracts in the league for years, so I can't really blame GM Kevin Adams. However, it's important to note that the forward was still contributing as he had 46 points last season in 74 games played, and the season prior he was over a point per game with 82 points in 79 games played. Skinner ended up signing with Edmonton, but we'll get to that more in detail later. After clearing up some cap space, Adams went to work by bulking up the bottom six with the additions of Jason Zucker and Sam Lafferty. Zucker was signed to a try-and-see deal at $5 million. It's still possible though that the veteran could steal a spot on the third or even second line. Lafferty was given a 2-year deal with a $2 million AAV. Honestly, as a Pens fan, I thought he was great in the Berg. He's great on the forecheck, willing to drop the gloves, and just an all-out grinder. The only downside to his game, I'd say, is that he takes a lot of careless penalties. Anyways, aside from other small signings, they also brought in James Reimer for a 1-year term at $1 million. Devin Levi struggled last year and was sent down to the minors, so the crease in Buffalo is going to be an interesting one this upcoming campaign for sure. Overall, I'd say the Sabres are getting a thumbs up from me. The only issue I'd have is just the dead cap. While it's not going to be too bad this year, next season it'll be $4.4 million for the 2025-26 campaign. And it'll even be worse in the next season, with a $6.4 million penalty. Still though, if we look at the lineup, I'd say the team became a little more grittier and harder to play against. In reality too, you have to take into account that Adams probably did the best he could, considering that Buffalo is typically a team players have on their no-trade list. Well, all I can say is sometimes it just has to get worse before it can get any better. And unfortunately for the Flames, that's exactly what's happened. Not only have fans had to watch Matthew Tkachuk capture a cup elsewhere this summer, but also they've seen their team slowly deteriorate before their eyes. And if you look at the lineup they have for next season, it's just sad. No, I'm not trying to rub salt in the wound, I'm just being real here. Last season they lost Elias Lindholm and Noah Hanifin. Then recently Jacob Markstrom was traded to New Jersey, and now Andrew Margiotta has signed with the Capitals. While GM Craig Conroy has done a few smaller things besides this, the headliner so far for the Flames has been Anthony Mantha. Mantha spent last season split between two teams, the Capitals and Golden Knights. The Knights seemed okay with letting him walk, as Mantha only notched 10 points after 18 games played. While he has a bigger body, standing at 6'5" and weighing 245 pounds, he doesn't really play to his size. Anyways, this wasn't that big of a risk, considering that he's only signed to a one-year deal at $3.5 million. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him move at the deadline, especially if the team does poorly next season. Huge thumbs down from me. The biggest contract that was connected to the Canes is definitely the one that wasn't signed, as Jake Guentzel decided to walk away from an 8-year deal valued at $64 million. Instead, the club has done some smaller scale signings thus far. Honestly though, I think the Canes had one of the best contracts so far from free agency. They signed Shane Gostisbehere to a 3-year deal worth $9.6 million. He proved that he's still able to be productive while playing in the Motor City, where he recorded 56 points in 81 games played, with 10 of those being goals. If we just look at Carolina's lineup right now, it's kind of insane how stacked their decor is. Like, Gostisbehere is on the 3rd pairing. So I'd expect the Canes to try and sign someone up front, because they still have that cap space that they wanted to give Guentzel, and then some. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Canes are low-key winners just because it wasn't really in the team's control where Guentzel went. Also, that Gostisbehere contract is going to come in clutch too. It's pretty remarkable how far the Blackhawks have come on paper in such a short time. I remember last season, as Connor Bedard was making his debut, that the Hawks were looked at as being one of the worst teams in the league by a landslide. However, GM Kyle Davidson went to work this free agency and was able to bring in some gritty talent to help insulate his young superstar. Among them is former 30-goal scorer Tyler Bertuzzi, who is known as a scrappy player who never shies away from greasy goals in up front. The contract that's front-loaded for sure will last until 2028 and will pay out an average of $5.5 million a season. I think it will be interesting to see what the forward can do in a top 6 role and how he plays with Bedard next campaign. Other than that, the Hawks added in Pat Maroon for a 1-year term. They also brought in Alec Martinez, TJ Brody, and Alex Vlasic to the decor. Another interesting signing was Teuvo Teravainen from Carolina. Teravainen is definitely going to come in clutch on the PK and will give the Hawks some depth in the bottom 6. Overall, considering where the team is in its progression, this free agency wasn't a wash for Chicago. Thumbs up for me. The Stars ended up parting ways with veterans Joe Pavelski and Ryan Suter. Suter was bought out again for the 2nd time in his career, and his replacement was former teammate Matt Dumba. Dumba's game has unfortunately declined after he left Minnesota. Similarly to Lindholm, this is a team betting on a struggling player to find his game again and to become worth what he's being paid, as Dumba was signed to a 2-year deal valued at $7.5 million. Just to put things into perspective a little, according to The Athletic, the defenseman's surplus value is set to be a negative $2.6 million a season. Throughout the last campaign between Arizona and Tampa, he was only able to muster up 12 points after 76 games played. Considering that he once had a 50-point season, yeah, Dumba's game has declined quite a bit offensively. Besides bringing in Casey DeSmith for help in net, GM didn't do a lot really. Thumbs down for sure. Last season, many felt that Detroit ultimately fell short of fulfilling expectations, considering that they didn't make the playoffs. Expectations initially came about due to the fact that GM Steve Yzerman was able to obtain 2 highly skilled forwards in Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. And one could say that there's even more added pressure this upcoming season, considering the moves that Stevie Y made. The initial headliner in the Motor City was Patrick Kane re-upping with the Wings for another year. He was given $4 million after proving that he's still got it. Kane, while nearly finishing at a point per game, notched 47 of them in 50 games before succumbing to injury. Outside of Kane, the other high-profile signing was that of two-time Stanley Cup champ Vladimir Tarasenko. Coming from the cap-strapped Florida Panthers, the forward ended up securing a 2-year contract valued at $9.5 million. While he's not producing at the pace he once was during his St. Louis days, Tarasenko is still able to be effective while playing in a top 6 role, as he was instrumental in helping the Cats, especially in the final 2 rounds, as a scoring chance creator for his former club. Yzerman also recruited Cam Talbot to help man the crease. The only real head-scratcher was the Jack Campbell signing. While it is really low risk considering he's only making $775,000, it's one contract I'm sure that no one saw coming. He is a Michigan native, so that probably played into it. It's going to be interesting to see where Soup fits in for sure. Even though the Wings have some eyesores still, such as the Andrew Kopp and Ben Schrock contracts, we can definitely say that overall, they improved this free agency. It wasn't that long ago that we as hockey fans witnessed Connor McDavid and company go the furthest they ever have. In fact, the team hasn't reached the final round since 2006, therefore this was quite the accomplishment. But as most of us know, going that deep and not returning with the cup in hand is the biggest disappointment that a player can possibly feel. And firstly, he added Jeff Skinner to the mix from Buffalo. After getting bought out, Skinner was able to not only join a team that made the finals most recently, but also one that consecutively makes the playoffs. In case you're not aware, Skinner throughout the 1,006 games he's been in has never had a taste of postseason hockey. Anyways, his contract is, in my opinion, one of the best free agency has yielded. The former 40-goal scorer was given a play-and-see deal valued at $3 million. Secondly, Victor Arvidsson from LA pretty much switched places with Warren Foegele and is signed to a 2-year deal that averages $4 million a season. Arvidsson will probably be sliding in next to Leon Draisaitl next season and will definitely give the Oils some much-needed secondary scoring. Other than those moves, Holland also brought back veteran Corey Perry at a low-risk 1-year deal of $1.15 million. It will be interesting to see what happens to Evander Kane now that Arvidsson is on the roster. However, for now, the only thing Holland can do is to buy out Jack Campbell. Just kidding. Is to ask for Kane to waive his no-move clause. Otherwise, the team is stuck with him on the books until March 1st of next year. Since there's a lot to go over, I decided to make this a 2-parter, meaning that I'm going to end things here for now, but I'll be back to talk about the Stamkos Getzel contracts and more in the next video. At this time, I'd like to thank my amazing patrons for supporting me in my YouTube ventures. If you'd like to see videos in advance, get shoutouts such as these, and more, simply click the link below to join. For just $1 a month, you'll be privileged to things such as unseen channel analytics and bonus content from yours truly. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.